Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Welcome back to our course English Poetry from Romantics to Moderns. This is our seventh lecture, and hope you have already studied the previous lectures. Still, you need to study the materials you have. You need to read each word, each line carefully, and you need everyone and then to my advice to you is to when you are reading any lines from the materials that you have here, try to guess what's the question that might be about this line. This will help you a lot. You will feel that you can discover the exam. You can put some questions to yourself. So please, when you are reading the materials that I'm giving you, so when you read it, ask how can a question be about this line or this point or that point. This will help you all the time. So try to study the materials in the form of question and answers. This will help you a lot. Okay, so today, inshallah, this is our seventh lecture, and it will be about that nice and interesting, very talented poet Byron, or as we called him last time, Lord Byron. Last time, actually, we studied another poem to Byron, that poem that we finished in the previous lecture, lecture number 6. Lecture number 6. This one, it was She Walks in Beauty. Today, inshallah, we have another lecture, which is When We Two Parted. This is another poem. The previous one that She Walks in Beauty, you find that the beauty, the poet was describing the beauty of the lady, but in this poem, the poet is a little bit sad and depressed because, as you can see from the title, When We Two Parted, and the word parted means when we two separated, when each one of us is in a different place, is in a different world, it may be. So I'll start by as we do with each one. We will start with reading the poem, and then we will have our explanation about this poem. So, when we two parted, this is the first time, when we two parted, in silence and tears. So, they left each other in silence and in tears, half broken hearted, to sever for years. Pale grow thy cheek and cold, colder thy kiss. Truly that hour foretold, when we two parted, in silence and tears, half broken hearted to sever for years. Pale grow thy cheek and cold, colder thy kiss. Truly that hour foretold, sorrow for this. The dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. It felt like the warning of that I feel now. Thy vows are all broken. I hear thy name spoken, and share in its shame. So the dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. It felt like the warning of what I feel now. Thy vows are all broken. I hear thy name spoken, and share in its shame. Thy name, thee before me, a knell to mine ear, a shudder comes o'er me. Why wert thou so dear? They know not I know thee. not I knew thee. They know not I knew thee. Who know thee too well? Long, long shall I rue thee, too deeply to tell. In secret we meet, in secret we met, in silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee with silence and tears? Again, I read this stanza again. In secret we met, in silence I grieve. I grieve means in silence I'm suffering alone. In silence I grieve, that thy heart could forget, because her heart forget him. Thy spirit deceive, your spirit deceived me. If I should meet thee after long years, how should I greet thee with silence and tears? Now let's start with the introduction that we have here. This poem is about the love. First and later, at the very beginning, it's about the love, and later the hatred a man feels towards who was his beloved because she left him. Now, it's a description of his feeling of hatred to that woman that he loved. Because of what? Because she deserted him, because she left him. It's a very typical romantic poem, of course, because it belongs, as we said, to the romantic age, to the romantic poetry. A typical of a romantic writer, poet like Byron, Lord Byron, who expresses his feelings of love, a typical issue of romanticism. So we find that all those romantic poetry, they depend mainly on expressing their feelings, because they are romantics and they depend on the feelings and the emotions they feel before writing the poems. Okay, now the vocabulary here, the vocabulary of the poem is easy to understand for everybody who studies the English language. So find if you study the poem, you find that you can understand the simple language in which this poem was written, and you are able to follow up to understand the theme of the poem so easily. So the vocabulary is easy to understand for everybody who studies the English language. The first verse of the poem is also the title of the poem. So we find that the title is the same as the first line of the poem, which means that the writer could not or did not want to find a title for the poems, and that's why. So the first line of the poem is the same as the title. Why? Some people said because he may not be able to find the title, or because he did not want to find a title for the poem. So as it's said here again, the first verse of the poem is also the title of the poem, which means that the writer could not or did not want to find a title for the poem. Maybe the damage he felt was so strong that he was not able to find a good title for the poem. Maybe because of that tragedy that he had because of his beloved leaving him, he could not find a title to write for this poem. So he preferred just to put the title as the first line for this one. So it's maybe the damage he felt was so strong, that loss he felt was so strong, that he was not able to find a good title for the poem. As he writes at the end of the third stanza, long, long shall I rue thee too deeply to tell, which means that the poet was deeply affected by the leaving, by that desert of his beloved to him, and by that separation between the two, and that made him unable to find a title to the poem. Now, let's move to the next one. So, When We Two Departed is a poem. George, of course, we know the title. The poet is George Jordan Byron, and it was written in 1808 and published in 1813 in the poetical works of Lord Byron. So, When We Two Parted Again is a poem by Byron himself, and it was written in 1808, published in 1813. You need to pay attention to the dates. Every now and then I'm stressing this. And this poem was one of the poems in which he collected in his poetical works of Lord Byron. Now, we have, as we did with the previous poem, that we have some characteristics, some romantic characteristics of the poem. We are doing the same with this one. So the main characteristics of Byron's poems here is its strength and masculinity combined in a lot of cases with irony. And When We Two Parted is a poem of heart broken, expressing strong feelings in a simple but full of meanings vocabulary, such as in other poems like So We Will No Longer we will no go more roving. Now, the most important feeling that you get from the poem is that the poet is broken-hearted, so depressed, so sad for that separation, for the leaving of his beloved to him, of his woman to him. Now, the structure of the poem, how the poem is structured, how the poem is built. So the poem, if you go back to the poem, you will find that the poem is divided in 4 stanzas. And this is important. You need to know how many stanzas each poem is written, because also a question might be about this. For example, She Walks in Beauty consists of 4 stanza, 5 stanza, 6 stanza, or whatever. The same is here. So the poem is divided in 4 stanzas. So you might have a question about this. The poem is divided into When We Two Parted is divided into 5 stanza, 6 stanza, or whatever a number of stanzas. So please, these lines, that's why I'm telling you, when you are reading each line, try to guess, try to expect the question about this line. In this case, you will find that you are able to answer the exam so easily. And not only in my course you need to do this. You need to do this with all the courses. This is my sincere advice to you. So whenever you read, try not just to read and go on like this. No, you need to ask yourself, how can be a question about this? What's the question that can be about this line or that idea or that paragraph or whatever? Okay, so in this case it will help you a lot in getting high marks, inshallah, in the final exam. So the poem is divided in 4 stanzas, each one in 8 verses. So each stanza is written in 8 verses, and the rhyme scheme, which we stressed on last time, the rhyme used by Byron follows this structure, which is A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, G H G H, I J I J, K L K L, M N M N. So K B K B. So you find that each stanza has this different rhyme scheme. Separating each stanza in 4 verses, we have the rhyme more clear. Each even verse and each odd verse rhyme with its equivalent even or odd verse. So we have odd and even verses. This structure gives to the poem a lot of rhymes, giving the sensation of musicality. So when you are reading the poem, you will feel that there is a kind of music in that poem. So that's why it's this variety in the rhyme schemes which the poet used in his poem. It gives the sensation of musicality, that music in the poem. Okay. Then we have here what we call commentary. If we want to comment on that poem, we have on the whole, the poem is all the time giving the feelings of the pain, and all. When you read the poem, you feel that painful feelings that the poet has. Because of what? Because of his separation from his beloved, from his separation from the woman that he loved. On the whole, the poem is all the time giving the feeling of the pain that the poet has due to what? Because of what? Due to the separation of the 2 lovers. Because the 2 lovers, the poet and his lover, because they are separated, because they are not now together anymore, this makes the poet feel sad and feel depressed, feels hopeless to a certain extent. So you will get that sad tone in the poem, that sad atmosphere, that sad feelings in the poem when you are reading. And this is natural because he is separated from the one that he loves. Okay, so again, on the whole, the poem is all the time giving the feelings of the pain that the poet has due to the separation of the 2 lovers. What we cannot know is if the separation is because of death or maybe because she split up with him. So when you are reading the poem, you feel that you cannot decide, is it because she left him, or that separation happened because she died, his lover died, or moved to the other world. So you need to understand the poem in that 2 levels. Maybe because she already left him, or because she died. Okay, and why did we get that feeling that she died? Because you will find that some words used here can indicate this and can show this. Okay, now let's move to this. So, for example, in the first stanza, we have here the poet begins with the main topic, and he remembered the separation of the 2 lovers, how they felt, half broken-hearted. So, after this separation of the poet with his lover, he felt that his heart was broken. So half broken-hearted, showing his pain. Also, he expresses the idea of what we think that this separation is due to the death of his lover, with the metaphor of pale, grow thy shake and cold. So if you read these words, you might get the feeling that the lover is dead. Like the word he used here, the word pale, he used here pale, grow thy cheek and cold. So of course you know that that person, his face is, or her face is pale and cold, right? So colder thy kiss. All that surrounds her is cold, and this cold is a perfect form to express the death, in contrast with the warm involving the life. So when you are reading again the poem, you feel that you cannot decide at the end. Is it a separation? Is it a willing separation? She did it willingly. She did it because she wants to. She wanted to do this, or it happened because they were forced to have that separation by the death of the lady, of the woman that he loved. Okay, now let's move to the next stanza. In a four-stanza poem, Byron describes his parting from his beloved. He describes his parting from his beloved. The first stanza conveys a sense of sorrow. So you feel that the first stanza, there's a sense of sorrow, sadness, and desolation. We have words like tears, broken-hearted, pale, colder, and sorrow are used to convey the sadness of the two lovers. So the words that he used here show that sadness of the two lovers. He used, of course, these words just to make you feel how sad he is. So words like tears, like broken-hearted, like pale, colder, and sorrow are used here to convey, to give you the feeling, to convey the sadness of the two lovers. He wants to tell you, to make you feel his sadness and his depression, his disappointment because of that separation that happened between him and his lover. Okay, now let's move to the next one. Following with the poem, in the second stanza. So if you finish, now we are moving to the second stanza. Following with the poem, in the second stanza, it can be found the relation of colder morning, with the pain that the poet is feeling. Also, another time we can see that his lover is dead. Also, there is another evidence that his lover might be dead. He said that here, thy vows are all broken, which means that she has no vows now towards him, that nothing, no more vows, no more promises from her to him. And the second stanza also, the poet holds his beloved responsible for the parting. She has broken her vows. So now he is, in case we consider that she is still living and not she is dead, we find that the poet is putting all the responsibility of that separation, of that parting between the two, putting it and the whole blame is being put on the shoulder of his lover. She is the only one to be blamed. She is the only reason for this separation that happened between the two. Why? Because she has broken her vows. She has not kept her promise. She promised him of being together forever. She promised him to love him forever, and now she did not respect any of these promises. Now she did not keep on her promises. She left him, she separated, she disappeared. He could not find her anymore, and that's why he is blaming her and is telling that if this separation happened, it happened because of you and not because of me. Because of you, because you are the one who did not keep your promise, and you are the one who broke all your promises to me. Okay, so now let's move to the next one. And from the very beginning, from our first lectures about the romantic poets, we find, I told you that in all the romantic poems, you'll find that there is a close relationship between the poet and the nature. So we find this point comes to our poem here. We find that the nature is sympathizing. The nature is sharing that sadness of the poem. So look how the poet, the romantic poet in particular, is dealing with nature not as something that does not feel, something that does not have the same feelings like the poet. On the contrary, he feels that nature is a living thing. Nature is a living creature, living like it's the same like human beings, shares, maybe sometimes speaking with the poet. And this is the point that we have. Nature shares his sadness. Nature feels how the poet is sad, to what extent that the poet is sad, and sympathizing with him, sharing his sadness, that feeling of sadness that the poet has, that feeling of depression and frustration that the poet has. So nature shares his sadness. How nature shares his sadness? We find the dew of the morning sunk chill on my brow. So this parting took place some times ago, but he still feels the sadness of it. Although that separation between the poet and his lover did not happen just this moment, right now. It might happen a little bit earlier, but because he loved her so much, he still feels that sadness inside him. So although it was not that moment, it was not just 1 hour ago or 1 day ago that they are separated, but it might happen 1 year ago or something, but he still feels that pain inside his heart, which means that he loved her so much, and she was so dear and so close to his heart. So this parting, this separation, took place some times ago, earlier, maybe 1 year or 2 or whatever, but the poet still feels the sadness of it. He still feels that sadness in his heart, that pain in his heart because of that separation between him and his lover. This corresponds with, this goes side by side, this corresponds with the romantic belief that the impressions of an experience remain with the poet even after the experiences itself has come to an end. And this is very important, because if you go back to that poem that we covered before, which is about the daffodils, we said that the poet did not see this daffodil, the seeds of daffodils, this moment, but he saw it 2 years ago, and then while he was relaxing, he recalled that image that he had. So it's the same idea here about that romantic belief that that feelings they are expressing not just happen at the moment, but it might happen 1 or 2 or 5 years even ago, and all the time that feeling is inside the poem, and that image he has all the time in his mind, and he can recall it once again. So this corresponds again with the romantic belief that the impressions of an experience, that impression, that feeling of an experience, remain with the poet even after the experience itself has come to end. And this is what we are saying. Although that relationship between the poet and his lover now broke, now that relation does not exist anymore, but still he has that feeling inside him. Okay, now let's move to the next one. The third stanza contains strong vocabulary. So the third stanza contains strong vocabulary, showing again that she is dead. Showing again that she is dead. And you feel that we are confused to a certain extent, that we cannot decide if he is speaking about a lover who is still living, still alive, or he is speaking about a lover who is dead and not there anymore in our world. So the third stanza contains a strong vocabulary, showing again that she is dead. A knell to mine ear, a shudder comes to air me. These two verses remain to the sounds of the bells of a funeral, using the appropriate word, knell. Also, he asked himself why he loved her so. And people who knew her do not know any relation between them. So he wants to say here that that relation between them, that love that he has inside him, no one will know that relation, no one will know that feeling towards her, which means that he is an honest person, which means that which means that he will not reveal the nature of that relation between him and her to anyone, even after that separation. So he will keep these secrets inside him. He will keep her name inside him without revealing this to anyone, so which means that he is sincere and he is loyal, he is faithful to her even after that separation, that he will not reveal any secrets, he will not give any details about her, he will not tell the people about that lady, which shows the sincerity and the faithfulness of the poet to his lover, even after their separation, even after that they are not together anymore. Okay. At the last stanza, the poet is remembering when they met and transmits us a feeling of hope. If I should meet thee. So now he returns back in the last stanza to give us that feeling of hope that they might meet again. So all the previous stanzas, he is speaking about that separation between the two, and he will not reveal that relation, and how she is pale, and how she is cold, all these things. But at the end of the poem, at the last stanza, the poet is remembering when they met and transmits us a feeling of hope, makes us feel that there is a hope here, there is hope that they might meet together one day. If I should meet thee, so if I should meet you, he's speaking, of course, here about his lover. If I should meet thee, if I should meet you, maybe life exists before death. Life exists before death, and they can reopen their love again. So maybe they will meet again. Maybe the relationship between the two might come back to its natural state in which they have before. So maybe life exists before death, and they can reopen their love. And the poet also tells us how they greet, with silence and tears. So he said that if we meet together, our greeting will be just silence and tears, which means that he will not speak to her, he will not blame her verbally, but his blame to her will be in silence, and tears will come out of his eyes to show how he was tormented and how he suffered greatly in that, because of that separation. So the sadness continues throughout stanza 3 and 4. Her name is a knell to his ear. His sadness is too deep to describe. She has deceived him, and her heart could forget. He will forgive her if he meets her after long years. There is nothing to greet her with but silence and tears. So his greeting to her, if they meet again after this long years, his greeting to her will be just silence and tears. The poet is too sentiment here, is too romantic here, shows how he is sensitive and how he is in love with her. Now, the repetition of the words silence and tears here at the beginning and end of the poem. So we find that the poem mentioned the word tears and silence at the beginning of the poem, and also he mentioned it at the end of the poem. So the repetition of silence and tears at the beginning and end of the poem denotes the poet's inability to leave his moment of pain and behind, which means that his inability, he is not able to leave his moment of pain behind, which means that he is not able to forget his the pain inside him. He is not able to forget the sadness inside him. He is not able to forget these sweet memories that he lived with his beloved. So at the beginning he mentioned the word tears, silence and tears, and at the end also he mentioned this to make that sort of connection that he is remembering everything, that he is still living these memories in spite that they happened and they occurred years ago. So the repetition of silence and tears at the beginning and end of the poem denotes the poet's inability to leave his moment of pain behind. He is trapped in a state of grieving a lost love. It is all the more hurtful that he lost her to another man, and all he can offer her is that he will protect her identity by grieving alone. So what he will do is just protecting and keeping that secret inside him by grieving, by suffering alone. Okay, now the cold is a very important metaphorical element at the beginning of the second and the third stanza. The dew of the morning sun shell on my brow. Here the cold is shown as a metaphor of the feeling that the man has towards the woman. As it happens to in a knell, to mine ear a shudder comes or over me. Dew, shell, knell, and shudder are words that symbolize cold in many different ways. In the last stanza, the two first verses have two words that may be synonyms, but they mean a totally different thing. They are the contrast of the poem. In secret we met. Here Byron wants to transmit the passion of two lovers and their first secret encounter. And in silence I grieve. And this symbolizes that nobody can help this man to come back to smile after having been left by the woman he loved. So the two following verses, that thy heart could forget, thy spirit deceive, say, what she made him, she forgot him, and she deceived him. Now we have the romantic characteristics in this poem. There is, of course, a sense of sadness and loneliness. You have that feelings of sadness and loneliness permeating the whole poem, spreading, covering the whole poem, a feeling of sadness and loneliness, and this is covering the whole poem. The link between man and nature is also very important and is evident in the second sense, as we said, that the nature feels what the poet feels, and sympathizing with him, sharing with him the sadness that he has inside him. So the link between man and nature is evident in the second stanza. The experience continues with the romantic poet long after the causation has ceased. Rich imagination and ordinary language. The question in the poem reflects the poet's wonder and sadness over such a parting. So the question in the poem reflects the poet's wonder and sadness over such a parting. Okay, now let's move to that part which is the model question. We have here the repetition of silence and tears. The word silence and tears that we have just mentioned. That repetition that happened at the beginning and at the end of the poem. The repetition of silence and tears. And when we two parted at the beginning and end of the poem denotes what? Indicates what? Shows what? The poet's happiness, the poet's cheerfulness, the poet's gladness, or the poet's painfulness. Of course, we have the poet's painfulness or pain. So this repetition of the word silence and tears. Of course, silence and tears can never indicate happiness, can never indicate cheerfulness or gladness, but of course it can indicate painfulness and sadness. Okay, now let's move to another model question. We have in when we two parted, shared sadness with the poet. What shared sadness with the poet? Is it the wife of the poet shares sadness with the poet, or it is the neighbor, his neighbor shares sadness with the poet, or nature shares sadness with the poet, or a friend shares sadness with the poet? So if you read the line that we have just mentioned, that because he is a romantic, of course, what shares here the sadness of the poem is the nature shared sadness of the poet. Okay, so the correct answer here is, as you can see, is C. Okay, so again, if you read the question, you can understand this. So, who shares sadness with the poet? It is nature, not the wife, not the neighbor, not a friend who shares sadness with the with the poet. It is the nature itself, because as I have just mentioned few minutes ago, that the romantic poet deals with nature as a living thing, as someone that has the human qualities. Nature is not inanimate, nature is a living thing. Nature can feel the sadness of the poem and can help him to overcome and to surpass these sadnesses that he and these miseries that he has. Okay, now this is the end of our lecture. I have now already finished, and this is our seventh lecture. Inshallah, we will meet together, inshallah, next time. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best to all of you, whether girls or boys, young men, young ladies. All the best to all of you, not only in my course but also in all the other courses. Please study hard, and as I said before, try to guess the questions. This will help you a lot, inshallah. Thank you very much. All the best to all of you. See you, inshallah, next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.